What's up, everybody? We are going to tier list this board game shelf, so let's get right into it. What's up, everybody? My name is Nick Murphy. I'm one half of the Brothers Murph, and we're going to be tier listing board game shelves. This is going to kind of take the place of a series called What's on That Shelf that we used to do, where we kind of just go through and talk about all the games on a shelf. We're still going to be doing that, but we kind of want to add a twist to it, and so we decided to tier rank all the games on a single shelf. And tier listing is something that happens a lot in a lot of different areas of fandoms, but doesn't really happen in board games a lot. The only tier listing I've ever seen is from a channel called Shelfside, and they tier listed their entire board game collection. That was a really cool idea, and so there'll be a link down in the description below to their video, but that's kind of the only tier listing I've ever seen. If you don't know what a tier list is, a tier list looks like this, and it's basically a way to rank stuff. You can rank sports teams, you can rank board games, video games, really anything, and there are 5 tiers. There's D tier, which is the lowest, C tier, B tier, A tier, and then finally S tier, which is the top one. The S stands for special, super, kind of whatever you want. It's A+, basically. It is an S tier. And so we're basically going to go through all of these. I'm going to talk about them, and then we're going to give them a ranking in our tier list. And by the end of it, we'll have a tier list for just this shelf here, and then we'll kind of go through all of our shelves, doing that over, let's be honest, a very long time. I will say that they probably, throughout our whole collection, there probably won't be very many D tier games, because why would we have very many D tier games? Especially because we're going to be doing a big cull in about a month or so. So a lot of our D tier games are probably going to go away. But nonetheless, it's our collection. There's not going to be that many bad games. But nonetheless, we thought it'd be interesting to kind of do it this way. So if you liked what's on the shelf back in the day, you're probably gonna like this too. So we'll go ahead and start with this game right here, Abomination. So Abomination is a game where you are making a Frankenstein's monster. You are going around town and you are collecting various body parts and various, essentially, like, you're actually not collecting body parts, you're collecting body materials. So you're collecting bones, you're collecting blood, you're collecting just flesh. It's really, really dark. It's very macabre, as you can see. It's very just, it looks a lot like this guy right here. And so you're going around this very like gray, dreary world, and you can get all these body parts from different areas. You can go to like the graveyard and get, like, essentially pay the gravedigger to give you one of these corpses, and you can kind of like take the stuff from it. And the different corpses will have different, essentially like, different levels of decomposition, we'll say. Like sometimes they're just skeletons, more or less. You'll get a bunch of bones, but not really anything else. But if it's a really fresh corpse, you might be able to get some cool stuff. You can also go to the hospital and get bodies from there, and those are like the really fresh ones. It's very dark. And one thing I will say about the game is the art on there, I wouldn't say it's gory. It's not like blood, gory, that kind of stuff, but it is kind of graphic. And again, not so much where it's like disgusting or like really realistic, but there are people who like kind of look dead, you know, and like it's a very macabre game. And it's a big worker placement game. And so you're taking all these materials and you're building out various body parts. You're building a big old leg, building the torso, building the head. You got to build it out of flesh and bones and this kind of stuff. And then you have to get lightning, essentially, to animate that part of the body. You're essentially shocking it. And you're trying to build a big Frankenstein's monster. And here's the thing. I love this theme. I think it's really, really cool. At this point, there's also like My Father's Work out there now, which is kind of a similar theme, where you are continuing your father's work, and your father's work is making some kind of Frankenstein's monster. But this at the time was really the only game out there that did this. I think it's a really interesting theme and a really interesting way to go about like worker placement and like resource management, if we want to call it that. The issue is it didn't work for us. The game is really long, and there is a variant called the Igor variant that you can play with that cleans up some stuff, makes the game shorter, and it was still just too long. And so we played it a couple times. We played the Igor variant as well, and every single time we just kept being like, I really, really, really want to like this, and I just don't. And so for Abomination, I think we're gonna put Abomination in the D tier. Starting off kind of negative, unfortunately. I love the concept of this game. I like the fact that it's dark. I like the fact that the cards are kind of like, oof, that's rough. You know, like I actually really like the way they did the game. I just don't really like the game that much. And now they did Mike, unfortunately. So this one's gonna go into the D tier. Unfortunately, I will tell you right now, this is probably gonna get cold. It's it's just not that good for us. We didn't really like it. We want to try My Father's Work, although we've heard that one's pretty good, but I've also heard that one's also very long, and I'm like, make these games shorter. So Abomination, unfortunately, we're gonna send down to the D tier, which is too bad, But let's lighten it up a little bit, both in terms of theme and in terms of goodness. And we're gonna have Rajas of the Ganges. Rajas of the Ganges is a worker placement game where you are building out your estate. You have these workers and you actually have all these dice, very big, chunky, really, really beautiful art, big, chunky dice and stuff like that. Really wonderful. And the dice is actually your currency in the game. You will be, whenever you get a die, you'll roll it out, and whatever that pip value is, that's gonna be the currency. And you'll use your workers to go somewhere. You have to turn in these dice, and depending on what you're doing, you wanna turn in different dice. You can go into like the market, and you can turn in a certain amount of dice, and that's how you can activate a certain amount of your markets. You can use a 1, 2, or 3 die to go up 1, 2, or 3 spots on the river, and wherever you end on the river will give you some kind of bonus. You can use these different like important people and stuff like that, and they all have a different pip value. And one thing I like about this game, and definitely games that have dice either as currency or as workers, is I don't want it where only like 6s are good. Like a lot of like war games or a lot of like games where you're rolling dice as combat, it's like you hit on a 5 or a 6, so everything else is basically worthless. In this case, 1s are good. Like you can do stuff with 1s, like that river spot, you can only go there with a 1, 2, or 3. You can't go there with a 4, 5, or 6. I would still say in general, higher values are probably better, but the lower values are not like worthless. You can also spend karma in the game to flip a die to its other side, so you do have some mitigation as well. And this is a game where you're getting these tiles and building out your estate, kind of like Carcassonne style. And in those tiles on your estate, you're getting different buildings. And that's going to give you fame, and you're going to have these different markets, which are how you're going to gain money. And this game is kind of like, I don't think it originated this, but this is the first time we saw it. Is it has the Arc Nova kind of scoring, where in this case you are moving up your fame track, you're moving up your money track, and what you need is you need those to cross. The first person to cross them is going to end the game, and then you finish out that round, and whoever crosses them the farthest, that person is the winner. It's the first time I ever saw that. I absolutely love that as a scoring mechanic. I think it's so interesting. I love the fact that you can go really, really heavy into money or really, really heavy into fame. We just love this game. We love it so, so, so much. It's gorgeous. It's got a cool theme. The components are good. It's got these 2 little mini expansions, these little goodie boxes which have like teeny tiny little mini expansions inside those goodie boxes, which just add a little bit of variety. It's just so dang good. I'm telling you right now, this one is an S tier game. It's all the way at the top, went from D all the way up to S. This is an S tier game. It's one of our favorite games. I mean, it's just such an enjoyable experience. We love introducing it to people. It just works. There's just something about this game that we find so freaking charming and so good, and I just absolutely adore it, and I never, ever, ever get tired of playing with it. And also the dice game, the Rajas of the Ganges, the Dice Charmers, the roll and write version of this is also very, very good. They're both really, really good. I'm not sure if that one would be an S tier. When we eventually get to that one, we'll have to see. But this is an S tier game. It is just that darn good. It's just so, my gosh, it's so good. Okay, so we've had a D and an S. Let's go ahead and talk about Paleo. Paleo is a game where you are kind of like early people, Neanderthal kind of areas. You're in the Stone Age. And this is a survival game. It's a cooperative survival game where you are going to be turning over these cards every round. And it's going to have something you're going to have to deal with. A lot of times threats. And you're trying to, at least in one of the modules, trying to finish like 5 of these cave paintings, or maybe one of them with 5 cards. I can't quite remember. It's been a while. I've only played this game once, and I do remember enjoying it. But it is kind of this big co-op survival game. You're building out tools, you're getting different like villagers, but those villagers can get harmed and stuff. And so you're doing all this stuff, but really what it is it's just a survival game. And I like the concept of survival games, I think, more than I actually like playing survival games. I did like this one more than, say, something like Robinson Crusoe, because Robinson Crusoe, while I enjoy Robinson Crusoe, it's just a little too brutal for me. It's just so hard and so unforgiving, and I do enjoy that sometimes, but it's just nothing. It's not a game that I can play more than like once a year, maybe. It's just too much. But Paleo is a little bit, not necessarily easier, but it's just a little bit lighter. It just doesn't hurt quite so much, and I do enjoy liking it. And one thing that's really, really nice is one of the components are very nice, but one thing that's nice about the game is there are like 10, like, is it 10? There are like, yeah, 10 different modules in the game. So every game you're playing is going to be different. One will be different because the cards will come out in different ways, but there's also like 10 different ways to play this game. It's really got a lot going on for like just like a very normal sized box. And so it's got this kind of like, not a campaign, but again, it's just got different modules. It's very, very cool. I've only ever played the first one. I've only played this game once, and I did enjoy it, but I need to play it more to figure out where it is. So this one is actually gonna go right in the middle. We're gonna go right in the B tier, because I distinctly remember enjoying it, and I like the concept of it, and I really like the fact that there's like so many different modules, but I can't really put it higher than B, because I don't remember much else about it, and we haven't played it too much, but I remember enjoying it, and honestly, B tier is just fine. Paleo, you're in the B tier. We've been very even. I will say with this concept, there's no like bell curve. It doesn't be like one has to be in D and one has to be in C. There's not like that. If they all end up in the S tier, they all end up in the S tier. That's totally fine. All right. Oh, this one's heavy. Sorcerers City. Sorcerers City is a game. This is kind of like Carcassonne on steroids, where basically you are going to be having it's like real-time Carcassonne, where you're having a real-time part of the game where you're gonna be putting out these different colored like district tiles, and there's like yellow and red and green and purple, and you're essentially trying to match colors. You don't have to match colors, but you generally want to, because you want a big swath of one color if you can. And then once you are done, everyone's doing that very quickly. You're pulling off one tile from your stack, and you have to choose where to put it, pulling off another one, pulling off another one, pulling off another one. And then at the end of that, you're essentially going to count up how much you did of each of these things. And you have these 4 tracks. It's like purple, which is like magic, and then you have influence, which is red, and then money, which is yellow, and then points, which is green. And you're going up these various tracks. And then once the round ends, you're essentially going to be spending your money, and whoever has the most influence, which is again the red track, you will get to go first. You're gonna spend your money mostly on these new tiles. You're gonna be getting more tiles in the game, and these tiles will have a whole bunch of different stuff on them. They might allow you to like move stuff, they might allow you to give you more buying power, give you extra money, multipliers, all this different kind of stuff. There's all these different kind of tiles, and they really change the game a lot. And so you're buying these different tiles and you're adding them into your stack. So the next round, you will have to then put them out. But you're also going to get monsters, and these monster tiles are going to really mess you up. Whenever you draw a monster tile, you have to place it somewhere, and they're just going to mess your whole thing up. Sometimes they'll like destroy other tiles, they'll get in the way, they'll make stuff around them not score, all of this different kind of stuff. And then ultimately you're trying to get points. And I really want to like this game, is what it comes down to. I like this game ultimately. The problem is, in my opinion, is one, it's way too big. I love Druid City games so much. They have a tendency to make their games very large, like table presence large, which is very cool in theory, but a lot of times makes games difficult to play. And I feel like almost every Druid City game I've ever played is somewhat difficult to play just because of the sheer size of the game. And I wish they were a little bit smaller. Please make them slightly smaller. And I really like Sorcerers City, and I think it works well. My problem is the fun part of the game is the crazy tile placing, because the first round, you only have a couple tiles. You're like, this is easy. But by the 5th round, I think it's 5 rounds, you have the same amount of time, but you have way more tiles because you have way more monsters. You've been buying tiles this whole time. You don't really ever get rid of tiles for the most part. And so it really ramps up. The problem is, like, that's the fun part of the game. But then once that part is done, and that part's like however long the timer, however long you were choosing to make the timer, because you have a couple different choices, then the whole thing stops and everyone goes like, oh, and then you have to count up everything, and they have to go up these tracks, and then figure out, okay, who has the most influence? Okay, you do. Okay, so you get to go first, then people buy, and then you have to figure out what monster, give everyone a monster tile, and then you kind of shuffle your stuff up, and then you get to go again. But there's this huge grinding halt of the game where you do everything else, and none of that stuff, in my opinion, is all that fun. That to me just feels like upkeep stuff, like the buying phase stuff, which is fun and fine, but like that's not the fun part of the game. The fun part is building out your city, and that is like the shortest part of the game. And I understand why it can't be the entire game, but it's just, I don't know, that balance is tough. And then I really like the idea of the monsters. The problem with the monsters is when you flip one over, you have to just remember what that monster does. So the problem is every single time a monster comes out, there's someone on the table who goes, wait, what does the chimera do? What does the chimera do? And then you have to be like, oh, they do this. And then you have to go back to your thing because there's nothing on the tiles that tells you what they do. And so it's just tough. It's just tough. And I think it works decently, but I wish it worked a lot better, basically. I really like Sorcerers City. I love the concept of Sorcerers City more than I like the actual gameplay of Sorcerers City. There's just too much time spent on not the really fun part, and even the really fun part can get confusing because it's just, there's a lot of different stuff, and trying to explain how everything works can get a little confusing, and it's just humongous. It's just absolutely humongous. And so I really like Sorcerers City, but I'm gonna end up putting it in the C tier, unfortunately. It's not gonna be a D tier because I do really enjoy this game, but it's just, I just don't think it works very well, unfortunately. But, oh man, I wanna like it more than I do. It's just really cool. It's such a cool concept that I just don't think works quite as well. I would love to see someone take basically the same general idea of this and just make it a little more streamlined, a little smoother, and more focused on the fun real-time part. And I think this honestly could be all the way up to an A tier game, maybe even higher if they did it really well. I think the concept is that good, but this unfortunately is going to go into the C tier, which hurts my heart because I love me some Druid City games, but what are you gonna do? So now we have what, D? Ooh, we are running a pretty even gamut. We're gonna have Histrio here. Histrio is one of Mike and I's most evangelized games ever. We always tell people about this game. We're always trying to get people to play this game. We tell people to buy it. We've gotten literally like, I would guess probably like anywhere between like 40 to 50 people to buy this game. And luckily for the most part, it's gone over well. One or two people have said like, yeah, I don't really like it. It's like, yeah, sorry. But then Histrio is a simultaneous selection game where you are a troupe of actors and you are going around to different parts of the kingdom to gather different actors and actresses and acrobats. And you're essentially putting on a play for the king. It's got these really beautiful anthropomorphized animals. It's got art by Jeremy Fleury, who did like Yamatai, did First Empires recently. Really wonderful artist. And it's just really, really fun. So basically, you're gonna put out all these cards in these 8 cities, and then you're gonna choose which one of those cities you're gonna go to secretly. And then you're going to reveal those. And then basically what's gonna happen is if you're the only person to go to that city, you are gonna be able to get all of those cards, which is great. If multiple people went to the same city, no one gets those cards. It's really tough in that way, but it's really, really fun. I love simultaneous selection for that exact reason. It's really, really great. And so basically, and then these cards are gonna be essentially one of 4 things. They're gonna be actors for a tragedy, actors for a comedy, acrobats, which are gonna be special people who give you essentially some kind of special power, or they're just gonna give you money. And when you get cards, you can choose to keep them in your troupe, or you can choose to discard them. And why you want to discard them, because you will then alter the king's mood. The king is gonna want either a tragedy or a comedy, and there is a big ol', this game is crazy overproduced, which makes it unnecessarily expensive, but I do love that. There is this big 3D stage. It has a comedy on this side and the tragedy on this side, and a little marker. So the thing is, you can push the king's mood to either a comedy or a tragedy based off of what kind of cards you have. So if you have all tragedians, you don't want the king to want a comedy, you want the king to want a tragedy. So then you want to start discarding these tragedy cards to push the king into a sad mood. But then someone else might want a comedy, so they're trying to push it back over the comedy side, and it's incredibly fun. And then you have those acrobats, which give you a little bit of a special power. And then basically, once you go through the deck of cards, you are then going to have, you have to put on your play. And then basically you're gonna look at your troupe of actors and actresses, and you basically have to see whatever you have the most power in, either tragedy or comedy, that's the kind of play you're putting on. And then the king will essentially reward everyone who put on a play that he enjoys. So if he wants tragedies, you'll get rewarded if you put on a tragedy. And then whoever put on the best tragedy or the best comedy will essentially get double points, which are money in this game, or is points. And so you want to have not only just, you don't want to just match the king's mood, you want to have the best play that matches the king's mood. But on top of that, whenever you do go to a spot with someone else, you do get what are they called? I can't quite remember, but they're essentially like different like king's ensemble people. Like it could be like a cook, or it could be like the queen, or it could be all these different stuff. But basically one of these kind of other royals, or someone who revolves around the king in some way. And those cards will do a whole bunch of different stuff. And sometimes, like if you're the queen, you don't really like the king at all because it's probably like arranged marriage or some crap like that. And so you actually want your play to go against the king's moods. So sometimes, depending on what kind of cards you get, you might change stuff up. And it's just so dang fun. It's super easy to learn. It just works so freaking well. The production quality is great. The art is absolutely incredible. And it's just fun. It just works really, really well. And we love Hysteria. We've always evangelized this game ever since we've had a channel for 5 years now. We've been talking about Hysteria. It's not really available, unfortunately, anymore because I don't think it sold very well. But it's very, very fun. If you do find it somewhere for clearance or something like that, pick it up. It's a really good time. I like it a lot. This one's going to go in the A tier. Not all the way to S. I don't love it quite that much. At some point it probably was in my S tier, but right now it's back in the A tier. I really enjoy it. I think it's absolutely outstanding. So this one's going to go in the A tier. And I think we've gone D, S, B, C, A. So at this point we actually have a full contingent of them. So let's go to Sherlock Case Connection. This game is not great. I'm not gonna lie, fam. As much as I love me some Lucky Duck games, this game was not great. One, I don't watch Sherlock, so like from that, the Sherlock theme for me personally doesn't really do anything. And then this is a game where I don't hate the concept of this game, but basically you're getting these different parts of the Sherlock story, and you're basically trying to match symbols on the sides of the cards, and the way you're drafting the cards can kind of dictate what you're trying to get. And so you're trying to get these different things, and you're essentially trying to solve the case by getting enough of these symbols to essentially go back to like the main case card. And it's just like, here's the thing. I will say this. Like Tom, I know, had a really, really rough review on this. Here's the thing about this game. It is a game. I don't think it's a great game. Like I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm gonna put this one in the D tier. I don't think it's like a great game. But here's the thing I will say about this, is this is meant for a mass market audience. That's why they have the Sherlock theme on there. That's why I don't know how much they had to pay, but I'm sure they had to pay for this IP. The reason why they did that is because this isn't made for me, is how I think about it. This isn't made for probably you. If you're watching one of our videos, you're probably more into the hobby where this isn't really for you. It's for people who have never played a board game but who love Sherlock and are going to see this in like a Target or something like that and go like, oh my God, I love Sherlock, grab this game. And one thing I will say about the game is it is a game. There are lots of mass market games, not quite as many as there used to be in this case, but like that are just like absolute garbage, like absolute garbage. And they weren't even really games. There's like no strategy. It's like Candyland. It's just all luck, nothing else, just blah, blah, blah. That was how all mass market games were, especially mass market games based on IPs. And here's the thing I will say this game. I don't love this game, but it is a game. There is some strategy. There are choices to make. And so here's the thing. It's like, how it comes down to me is like, this game isn't for me. This game isn't for me. It's for someone else. And here's the thing. If someone picked up this game, it was their first modern board game they ever played, I'm glad it's at least a game and that there is some choices and there is some strategy. So while I don't love this game, and I also don't care about the theme at all, it's still going to go in the D tier, but I don't hate it because I'm glad that it's an actual game. And if you're trying to appeal to a mass market audience, which is who I think Lucky Duck didn't expect gamers to like this game. I think they were expecting mass market people to hopefully like this game. I think it's fine for that audience. I honestly do. I think there's better mass market games out there for them. But nonetheless, it's like if someone picked up this game strictly on the theme alone, at least it's a game. So while it's going in the D tier, I don't like hate this because at least it's a game. At least it's a game. We're moving on to Cryptic Cafe. Cryptic Cafe is going to go in the B tier. I'm going to tell you right now because I haven't played this game. I am going to assume it is fine. It's by 25th Century Games. It looks really cute. It may be an S tier game. Who knows? I highly doubt it's a D tier game, but you never know. I haven't played this game yet. This is one of the few games we actually haven't played yet. So I'm going to give it a B because I have no idea. I'm not going to give it like a D. I'm going to err on the side of neutral. That's going to be D. But look how cute it is. Like, look at this big old Bigfoot and like with some weird like brain sandwich. It looks very cute. It looks very fun. I think it's going to be pretty light, but we're going to put it in the B tier for now because I don't really know. All right. Which one is this one? This is the original Great Western Trail. Great Western Trail. I'm going to kind of talk about this one and the next one. So I'll put this one like this. Great Western Trail and Great Western Trail Argentina. They're right next to each other because they have, it's not like one big panorama, but they have matching art styles by Chris Quilliams. Just beautiful. Great Western Trail is one of my favorite games. I absolutely love Great Western Trail. Great Western Trail, you are building out, we're not really building it out, but you're going through this rondel and you're getting a hand of cattle, and you're essentially going to make your way up to Kansas City in this game, Buenos Aires in that game. And essentially you're returning this hand of cattle, and you want all unique cattle. You don't want any repeats. And then the cattle have different strengths and basically, different values. And you essentially want the best value hand you can, but again, you can't repeat anything. And so you basically are going to be turning in this hand of cattle once you get to Kansas City, and then you're going to be shipping them off somewhere out west, basically, or somewhere out east, I suppose. And so you are shipping off your cattle to, go do cattle stuff, probably get eaten, it's meat. And so basically that's what you're doing. So throughout the whole game, you're going up this rondel, and you'll go back to the beginning, you'll go through the town, go through the rondel, go back to the beginning. You're doing this kind of big old loop. And throughout the game, you're getting different employees. You can get cowboys, which is how you're gonna get more cattle. You can get carpenters, which is how you're gonna build buildings. And you can get conductors, which is gonna move your train around, because you want your train to be able to be far down the track so you don't have to pay so much when you're shipping out your cattle. And you can get bigger, better cattle that are worth more, and then you can build your buildings. And that's one thing about this game that I feel like Mike and I haven't really ever paid too much attention to, and yet recently we have been paying more attention to it. And it's been making it really great is the buildings in this game. I like the buildings, but I've never really played with the buildings very much. And we have more recently, it's man, their buildings are really fun in this game. And I think we're kind of slow on that uptake. I love Great Western Trail. It's been around for a little while now. This, again, is the second edition. I do think the second edition is better than the first edition. If you have the first edition, you probably don't need the second edition, at least of the base game. And then this one also has the Rails to the North expansion. We've done videos on this and on that one over there. And it's really, really fun. I love Great Western Trail. I love it, love it, love it so much. I am going to put Great Western Trail, this one, I'm going to put this in the A tier. If this one didn't exist, this would be in the S tier. But at this point, I don't think we are going to play this one that often. I think the only reason why we play this one is because we want to play with Rails to the North. I think Rails to the North is an incredibly good expansion. I think it's really, really fun. I really never, ever want to play without it. And that's what keeps it kind of in the A tier. This would probably be B tier because honestly, base game versus base game, I don't think I would ever really play this one because the changes that are in Great Western Trail Argentina, although the changes are small, they really make a difference in the game. They really make the game feel different, and it makes it feel like it's a game that I honestly enjoy more. Still love the base game, especially with Rails to the North. We're still going to keep it one because we like to have this series. We're also going to be getting Great Western Trail New Zealand when it comes out, but I'm going to put this one in the A tier because this one, honestly, just beats it out. I absolutely adore Great Western Trail Argentina. I think it's so much fun. There's a couple changes in it. The way you ship out cows is different, where now you're in Argentina, obviously, and so you're shipping them across the pond to Europe. And so you actually have to instead of putting your discs out in various cities, like Kansas City or whatever, Kansas City is where you go. Sacramento. Sacramento was the original base game. It's not in the new one. Really bums me out. We're from Sacramento. But now you're putting them on boats, and those boats are going to get shipped out overseas, and but it's kind of a delayed shipment where when you put them on these boats, those boats will ship out at certain intervals throughout the game. So you need to have your discs on these boats before that happens for them to actually be able to get shipped out. And then they'll get shipped across the pond to these cities, and then you will move the discs from the top of these cities kind of into the cities, really deliver them into the cities. And that delay of the shipping really makes the game feel different and really feels cool. I really like that one. And then on top of that, there's a fourth kind of employee. There's granjeros who are farmers. And there's no more hazards and things like that. Those kinds of don't exist. The bandits aren't there anymore. You have all these granjeros around, and the granjeros have different colors. And when you help out a granjero, you can either keep them off to the side, kind of like you did with hazards or the bandits in the base game, or you can actually hire them as an employee, and what they're going to do is they're going to give you grain. And grain you're going to need for when you ship your cattle, because when you ship your cattle across the pond, they got to have something to eat. So you're going to have grain. There's now another resource in this game. A lot of the other stuff is similar, but just there's new actions on the buildings. There's new things you can do now. There's a way now to get certain, the way you get granjeros is you have to turn in your cows to do it, to kind of essentially doing work on the Granjero's farm, and then they'll come and be your employee and hang out with you. And those couple little changes, a couple more too, but those having Granjeros and having the difference in shipment really makes the game feel different, at least to us, and I really, really like it. This is going to be an S-tier game for me personally. I really like Great Western Trail, and I think this is a better version of the game, and honestly, unless I really want to play with Railroads of the North, we'll probably always play this version because I honestly just think it's better. I really love Great Western Trail Argentina and Great Western Trail in general. We have one last game here. Ugh, my left arm is getting tired from holding all these. We have Sky Mines. Sky Mines is a re-theme of a game called Mombasa. Mombasa, it was a very revered games in terms of the mechanic, but the theme is basically about just like divvying up Africa, and screw that. And so they re-themed it, changed some stuff, I believe, and then now it's about like, you're kind of like corporations mining the moon and stuff, which is like, all right, whatever. And I really, really like it, because ultimately, like the gameplay of it is pretty much the same. We've always heard such good things about the gameplay in this game. And this is a game where, again, you're building out parts onto the moon here, but you don't own any of these corporations. You essentially are buying shares in these corporations. So you have these couple different corporation tracks, and as you're going through the game, you're moving up these tracks, and then you can also put out outposts from these corporations onto the board. And as you remove outposts, you will start to reveal coins. And coins are going to be your points in the game. And at the end of the game, you'll look at how many coins are revealed on their little board there. And then you'll times that by the amount of shares you have in that company, and then that's how many points you get from that corporation there. But this has got a very interesting kind of like delayed deck building. So basically what it is, you have your hand of cards, and then you're going to choose 3 cards to play in the beginning of the game. You'll eventually get to the point where you can put out 5. You'll put 3 cards out, and then you will do your actions, and then when you're done, you will have 3 different discard piles, and those 3 cards have to all go into different discard piles. Actually, before you put them in the discard piles, you will take one of the piles back, and then you put them in the 3 different discard piles. So you're kind of doing this like slowed down, delayed deck building like that, where you're kind of constantly having to split your cards up and then grab kind of one pile at a time. One thing that's nice about that is you can't just like spam really, really good hands of cards. So if you have a bunch of energy in your hand, you can't just play a whole bunch of energy cards and then just do that over and over and over again, because you will then have to split them up. So you're kind of programming your deck. You're like, okay, I'm gonna put this one over here. Ooh, I'm gonna put this one here because I already have one of those cards there, so that when I pull that card, that pile back, I now will have a bigger, better turn for this kind of thing. It's just really, really fun and in a way of deck building that I've never seen before, and just feels super unique, feels really, really great. I absolutely love it. And then there's just a couple other things you can do where you're getting more of these cards, you're getting bigger, better cards. You're going up a bunch of different tracks, lots of bump-in tracks. We love bump-in tracks. And then there are a couple different actions on the board where you have these little action discs where you can put those out on top of your deck building stuff, and that will allow you to do a whole bunch of stuff, put out outposts, you know, kind of all the same kind of things. And it just works. It just works really, really well. I love Sky Mines. Again, we'd always heard good things about Mombasa, and I'm glad they rethemed it because I've always really wanted to play this one. And it's really, really good. I like the way it looks. It's very colorful while also being very like moon, blue, white kind of look. It's just cool. I enjoy it a lot. I'm gonna put this one, I'm between A and B, frankly. I really like it. I don't know, it's definitely not up in there in S. I don't know if I'm putting it in the A tier right now. There are a couple different modules that I want to try with. There's also a different side of the board. I'm gonna put it in the, I'm gonna put it in the B tier for right now. I feel like it will move up to the A tier as we play it more and we get better at the game, because we're still not very good at the game. But I'm gonna put it in the B tier for now. It's still very good, but it's like a B plus is what it is. It's really like a B plus. This honestly can go to the A tier, but let's put it in the B tier. And that's it. I got a big old stack of games. I have a empty shelf here. And so that is the tier list. Is a finished tier list right here. This is fun. I enjoy kind of ranking games in this way. I think it's interesting to kind of be like, okay, not only these are the games, but like this is kind of what we think of them. This is kind of where they end up on our general list. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy this, let us know down in the comments below. Because we enjoy doing like what's on the shelf. We kind of want to mix it up, and we think this is kind of a fun way to go about it. So nonetheless, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and on to the next shelf, I guess.
Thank you so much for watching that new kind of series that we're doing right now. Make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. We're pretty pumped about this. I had a good time making this one. I want to give a big shout out to our channel sponsors, Restoration Games, Lucky Duck Games, and Board Game Geek. And we want to give a very big shout out to Board Game Anonymous, who are the sponsors for the month of November. Do you have foot pain? Call Board Games Anonymous. Are you addicted to board games? Or do you sleep in a variety of board game boxes every night? Call Board Game Anonymous. That's unhealthy. Thank you, Board Game Anonymous, for sponsoring us for the month of November. We appreciate you.